Hi, this session is on factorising, and it's more basic factorising and an introduction on what it is and how to go about it. Now, factorising is a very important skill, and it involves a lot of practice because it is something that is tricky, especially when looking at it for the first time. Now, factorising, write this point down because factorising is simply the opposite to expanding. Now, to understand what this actually means, if I give you a question to expand, just say we have 2 bracket x plus y. If I ask you to expand this, well, you know that there's an invisible times here, and we go 2 times x and 2 times that y. So we end up with 2x plus in the middle, 2 times y is 2y. And that's it. There's nothing else that we can do. We can't add the 2x plus 2y because they're not like terms. Now, factorising would be, imagine we didn't have this question to expand, but we had the answer that we just got. So a question with factorising would be this. Instead of saying expanding, you have the answer, so something's been expanded, and it will ask you to factorise, which means, can you please put it back into brackets? Okay, now I'll quickly show you how I would do this one. And you've actually learned the skills already on how to factorise. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. So to factorise, your first step would be to get your brackets ready. Because remember, it's the opposite of expanding. So we have to factorise, we have to put it in expanded form, which has brackets. Next, you'd put a plus in the middle, because we've got a plus here. So it's always your first step. And because we have only 2 terms, 2x plus 2y, there's a left side and a right side. And out here, okay, we have to put our highest common factor. Now, what's a factor that we can take out from both sides? And we'll start with our number 2. We've got a 2 on this side and a 2 on that side. And just like a fraction, if I have 2 over 2, what I mean by taking out a factor is what can divide into 2 and 2. So if I had a fraction, we know, well, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 2 divided by 2 is also 1. So we end up with 1 over 1, and the whole thing just equals 1. So the highest factor I can take out, looking at my numbers, and I happen to have 2 on both sides, is simply 2. So I would write 2. And I'm left with 2 divided by 2 is 1, 2 divided by 2 is 1. I'll put the 1s in here for now, just in case there's nothing else and the 1 has to be visible. And now I'm left with an x here and a y there. Now I cannot take my x out because there is no x on this side, and I can't take my y out because there's no y on this side. So they're automatically what I call leftovers. So the x and y go straight back in there, and now the 1s can be invisible, and I have factorised this. And you can see how we ended up with the question from the beginning. If I had to expand this, I would go 2 times x, which is 2x, plus 2 times y, which is 2y, and I get the same thing. So we're just going back and forth, okay? Now, if that confused you, it's okay, because it is tricky, but the whole process of factorising is to take out the highest factors first of the numbers you see, and then any variables. Now, before we continue with factorising, I want you to simplify this expression here. Now, we have worked on these many times, so you should be able to do it without problem. If you can't simplify this, then you won't be able to factorise, because a question like this has all the skills you need to know when it comes to factorising. So have a go, and I'll start doing it now. So if I had to simplify this fraction, well, starting with my numbers, 2 and 4, 2 divided by 2 is just 1, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. Okay, so I have 1 over 2. And what I'm going to do, just down here, I'll put it in a little box. I am going to, whatever factor I take out, so in this case, the highest factor was 2. I'm going to write it in this box, okay? Just as an additional thing. So we've got 1 over 2. Now, my variables, I've got two a's up top and one on the bottom. We know there's an invisible one. So cross off our smallest amount. I can take out 1a from the bottom. And 2 take away 1 is just 1. So I'm left with an a on top. And because I took out an a, I'll just put it in this box. So the highest amount of a's I took out was just 1. Now I've got 5 b's on top and 10 on the bottom. My smallest amount is 5. It's gone. So I've taken out 5 b's, or b to the power of 5. But down here, I've got 10 take away 5, which is 5. So on the bottom, I'm left with b to the power of 5. And my last variable is an x. I have 4 x's on top and 1 on the bottom. So I can take away my smallest amount, take away 1x, okay? And 4 take away 1 is 3, and that sits on top. And that's how easy it is. My 1 here can be invisible, and that would be my final answer. Now, when it comes to factorizing, you are going to be doing the exact same thing. Taking out your smallest amount, okay? And what we take out is what we actually call the highest common factor, or the highest factors. And I've put them in a box because when we factorize, these factors here that we've taken out now have to become visible, and they go outside the bracket. Now, I hope you've written this question down because I'm going to use the same terms that I have on top and bottom in my next question. So here's now our question. It's asking us to factorize the following expression. Now, if you have a look, remember, look at your past question. If we just go back, we can see how I've used the exact same term, the top one and the bottom one in my question. And instead of division, instead of a fraction, I have a plus now in the middle. But remember, everything else is the same. So when we have to factorize, we know it's the opposite of expanding. So your first step is get your brackets ready. And a plus goes in the middle. Okay, so to factorize this, we have to end up with 3 things. Something on the outside, or a term on the outside, on the left-hand side in here, and also on this side. There has to be something visible in all these spaces here. Even if it's just a 1, there has to be something visible. All right, so to fill in these spaces, let's just do the exact same thing that we did before. Okay, and if you remember, in this box, I put the highest factors that I took out. And that you'll notice this will be visible on the outside of the brackets. So I've got a 2 on this side and a 4 on this side. So once again, what's the highest factor of 2 and 4? Well, we know it's 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So now, because I divided by 2, that's my highest factor. It goes out here. I'm going to leave some space because the rest of my variables have to go in there. I'll just rub these lines off so it doesn't look confusing. All right, and my numbers have been dealt with. Now my leftovers is a 1 on this side and a 2 on that side. I'll put a 1 here just in case there's nothing else. Okay, so that's it. Next, I've got 2 A's on this side. Do I have an A on this side? Yes, I do. So what's my smallest amount? My smallest amount is 1A. So I can take out 1A. My smallest amount is gone. So I've taken out 1A. And 2 take away 1 is just 1. So I'm left with 1A on this side here, the left-hand side. It's really important that if it's on this side, it stays on, the leftovers stay on the right side, okay? Next, so my A is taken care of. I'm up to my B. I've got 5 B's on this side and 10 B's on that side. I can take out my smallest amount, which is gone now, and it's 5 B's. So I've taken out my 5 B's. I must write it on the outside. And now on this side, 10 take away 5 is just 5. So on this side, I have B to the power of 5. And my B is now taken care of. And last variable, my X. I've got 4 X's here and 1 X there. I can take out my smallest amount. So that's gone from that side. But don't forget to write it out here. And 4 take away 1 is just 3. On this side, I'm left with X to the power of 3. And this 1 now can become invisible, and we're finished. We have factorized this expression. So basically now, if I go to expand this, if I go that times that and that times that, I'll end up with what I started off with. And you can see how if we compare these three terms, 1, 2, and 3, to our question, our previous question, it's the exact same thing. Instead of having brackets in our left and right side, we have top here and a bottom. And the only different thing is what we take out, the highest factors are not visible with questions like this. But I made them visible in this example. But if we look at this question, we've got our top, our bottom. So ax to the power of 3, ax to the power of 3, 2, b to the power of 5 is on that side. Let's have a look. Yeah, 2, b to the power of 5. And what I've taken out, I've just put it on the outside. And that's all you have to do. Now, a question like this, you won't even find it in your textbook. It's supposed to be a harder question, but it's not that hard at all. Let's just try a couple more. Now, for our next question, you notice we have no numbers, and that's still fine. So remember when factorizing, you must, whatever you take out must be on both sides. So let's have a look. I'll start with my x. So I've got an x here. Is there an x on the other side? Well, yes, there is. So that's the first thing I can take out. So I'll get my brackets ready. And now there's a takeaway in the middle. Okay, so I can take out 1x because I happen to have the same amount on both sides. So I'll take out 1 from there and 1 from there. They're both gone. But don't forget to put the x on the outside. We took out 1x, and because there's 1 on each side, they're both gone. So my leftover is just 1 and 1. And I'll put my 1 there and my 1 there just in case there's nothing else. Now I can see I've got a y on this side. Is there a y on the other side? No, there isn't. So I cannot take it out. So it's automatically a leftover. It's basically stuck there. I can't take it out. And that's taken care of. And on this side, I've got an A. Do I have an A on the other side? No, I don't. So I can't take my A out. It is also just stuck there. My 1s can become invisible now. And that is my final answer. My X, I've got a big space here, so I might just fix it up and put my X closer to the bracket. Okay, and that's it. We have factorized this expression. And to double check our answer is that our answer is correct, if I expand it, do the opposite of factorizing. So x times y is xy. Take away, x times a is xa, or we can say ax. And guess what? We've got the exact same thing that we started off with. And we're done. All right, question 3. So our first step, sorry, the question should say up here to factorize this. We know we're factorizing. So your first step is get your brackets ready. And we've got a plus in the middle. Let's just put a plus in the middle. Okay? And we know we have to end up with 1, 2, 3 different terms. All these spaces have to be filled. Okay, starting with our numbers, we've got 5 and 10. So what's the highest factor of 5 and 10? What can I divide them both by? Well, I can divide them both by 5. I can see that's the highest factor. And 10 divided by 5. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And because I divided by 5, that's my highest factor. It goes outside the brackets. My leftovers, 1 on this side and 2 on that side. Okay? And our numbers are done. Now I've got 2 A's on this side and 4 A's on that side. So yes, I can take out some A's now because they're on both sides. Take out our smallest amount, which is 2 A's. So outside it goes. I've taken out 2 A's. And 4 take away 2 is just 2. So on this side, I'm left with a to the power of 2, or a squared. And my a is taken care of. My next variable, I've got a y here. It's just 1y. And then 2 y's on this side. So they're on both sides, so I can take out my smallest amount, which is 1y. And 2 take away 1 is just 1. So I'm left with 1y over there. And we know that 1 can be invisible. Now, I'm almost done, but don't forget there's a t sitting here. Is there a t on this side? Unfortunately, there isn't. So the t is automatically a leftover, and it's stuck on that side there. So in this case, my 1 can now become invisible. And that is my final answer. And remember to double check if you have factorized correctly. If you expand this, do you end up with what you started off with? So I can get you to check that yourself. If you expand it, do we end up what we started off with? Okay, with our next question, try and have a go first and see how you go. And if you get stuck, then just watch the whole part. So with this one, once again, your first step is get your brackets ready because we are factorizing. So the question should say factorize. Plus goes in the middle because I have a plus here. And let's go. Starting with my numbers, 6 and 12. If you're still not sure about taking out the number or the highest factor, remember, if you have a fraction 6 over 12, what's the highest factor you can divide it by? Well, in this case, it's not 2, it's actually 6. Because I can divide both by 6, it's the highest factor. 6 divided by 6 is 1, 12 divided by 6 is 2. So I will see these numbers in here, and the highest factor 6 goes on the outside. So my leftovers was a 1 on this side, and 12 divided by 6 was 2, and a 2 on this side. Okay? So it's just like your fraction skills. There's a 1, there's a 2. The highest factor 6 is out there. Now I've got 2 x's here. I'll just rub this off so it doesn't look confusing. So I have 2 x's on this side and 10 on this side. My smallest amount is what I can get rid of or take away and take out. So that's gone. So I've taken out 2 x's, and 10 take away 2 is 8. So it's automatically a leftover on this side, x to the power of 8. And my x's are now taken care of. And now I can see finally I've got a variable y. I've got 3 y's on this side and 4 on this side. Once again, I can take out my smallest amount. It's gone on the outside. And 4 take away 3 is just 1. So I'm left with 1y. And we know that 1 is invisible. And I am done. Now remember, when we take out our smallest amount, the leftover is actually 1. And we're saying 1 times 1 times 1, which is 1. So we only have to write the 1 once, okay? So in this case, if you just left a space like this, you're actually missing a number. The 1 in this case now has to be visible, okay? It can't be invisible because otherwise it's saying there's nothing there. And when we have nothing, it's 0, and that's wrong. Okay, so you can see how important this 1 now is there as a leftover. And the reason is, if I expand this, okay, let's have a look. 6x squared and y cubed, or y to the power of 3, times 1, gives me what I started off with. So my answer would be 6x squared y to the power of 3, because that times that is the same thing. Plus, if I multiply 6x squared y cubed with this one, with this term, let's see, 6 times 2 is 12, x squared and times x to the power of 8, we add their powers, we end up with x to the power of 10, and y cubed times y to the power of 1, add their powers, we end up with y to the power of 4. And have a look, we end up with the exact same thing, okay? So we can see how we've done the right thing. For our next question, we sort of have the alphabet. Okay, so once again, we have to factorize this. So get your brackets ready. And a plus goes in the middle. So basically, because we have no powers, all the powers are an invisible 1. We know that. We can just take out, if we have a variable on both sides, we can just take it out. And that's it. So let's have a look. We got an A on this side and an A on that side. So I can take out an A, and the A's are gone. So my leftover is really a 1. So I'll put a 1 just in case there's nothing else. Next, I've got a B on this side, and also there's a B on that side. So I can take out the B, 1B. So I've taken it out, and it's a leftover 1. But I know that 1 times 1 is 1, so I don't have to write 1 again. I've got a C on this side. Is there a C on this side here as well? Unfortunately, there isn't. I can't take out the C, so it's automatically a leftover on that side. I'll cross it off because I've used it and I've dealt with it, so I can see what's left. I've got a D on this side. Oh, I happen to have a D on this side as well. So I can take out that D, and it's gone from that side and gone from that side. All right, an E. I've got an E on this side. Do I have an E on this side here? Unfortunately, I don't. So the E is automatically stuck there as a leftover. And I'll cross it off because I've used it. It's down there. An F. I've got an F on this side. and I happen to have an F on this side. So I can take out an F, or just squeeze it in there. So I've taken out one F, and they're both gone from both sides. And finally, I've got now a G and a H. I can see I have no G or no H on this side. So these are automatically leftovers on this side here. And they're done. That one, or the ones, can now become invisible. And that would be our final answer. Okay? And that's how easy factorizing is. So you need to keep practicing. So please complete the questions that your teacher gives you. And in case you don't get those questions, I'll show them to you now. So just quickly, this is your homework. If you are in the 8B group, okay, you want to do those questions from 5H, 1 to 8. Students, now 8A group, some of you have the new textbook. So if you've got the new textbook, do these questions here from 8C. If you have the old textbook, and I think 8JM, that's you, you just do these questions from 6A. Okay, and what you don't finish will be for homework, but please make sure you try and you practice. If you do get stuck, ask somebody next to you to help you, and please make sure you're working hard. Thanks, guys.